Hello, everyone. This is the Insert Title Show, and I'm your host, Wolf Strife. On this episode, I'm going to be listing my top 15 favorite World War One movies. Now, the reason why it's only 15 is because I think I've only seen about 15 or 16 World War One movies. What was that one? War Horse is probably the lamest war movie I've ever seen in my life. I mean, I did not like War Horse at all. Oh, let's show the horrors of World War One through the eyes of a horse. I mean, get out of here, Spielberg. So that will not be on my top 15 list, but I think that's the only one other than the 15 that I can think of. So, yeah. I did do top 20 favorite World War II movies video last year, and that was like the second video I ever did, so I was a rookie. I had no idea what I was doing. And it was kind of weird being captured on video for like the second time. I was like, oh crap, this is weird. I think I did pretty well, but as I was going down my list, like number 7, number 6, number 5, reading my notes and stuff, I realized, oh shit, I forgot to put Saving Private Ryan in here. And you can actually tell when that happens. I'm like, oh shit. And I've already recorded like 15 minutes, so I can't just, scrap the whole thing. So I kind of panicked and put Saving Private Ryan as my, my fifth and a half favorite World War II movie or something. So I was just like, oh my god. So at least doing audio on here, I can fix any problems. But video, I did not know how to edit video at the time, so I was just boned. And just as a note, Saving Private Ryan would probably be my 7th favorite World War II movie. I'm just not too big on the characters and the story and stuff like that. But as far as battle scenes go, I mean, that movie's incredible. I mean, not just the D-Day parts, the parts where they're fighting in the town at the end and stuff. That was incredible stuff. I wish more war movies looked like that. Instead of, I think nowadays they're using a lot of CGI blood and stuff, and that just kind of looks like shit. But whatever they did, the stunt crew or whoever the hell in Saving Private Ryan, that's how war movies should look as far as gore and violence and stuff. But, it's 7th favorite World War II movie. That's not bad. Especially the ones I got in front of it are incredible movies, so whatever. But enough about World War II and my fuck-ups a year ago. Let's actually get to it, shall we? Okay, my 15th favorite World War I movie that I've seen. Oh, and that's another thing, too, about movies. This is my top 15, but there's also some pretty good documentaries out there. Like I'm watching one on Netflix right now about World War One. I can't remember what it's called. It's like Diaries of World War One or whatever. So yeah, if you're looking for a good documentary, you might want to check that out. But there's tons of old documentaries and even old film footage of World War One on YouTube. So definitely run around there if you want. And in fact, a bunch of these World War One movies I've actually seen on YouTube. Some of them for the very first time, like Passchendaele and Johnny Got His Gun. I watched those for the first time on YouTube, so if some of these are kind of hard for you to find, check them out on YouTube. But okay, let's see. Number 15, The Red Baron. This movie's okay. Who doesn't love The Red Baron? And if you're into aviation warfare and stuff, this is actually a really good movie. As far as the battle scenes in the air and stuff goes. The acting is Basically, a guy named, how would you pronounce this? Matthias Schweigerhofer plays Manfred von Richthofen, the Red Baron. It's got Lena Headey in it as a French nurse, kind of weird. Till Schweiger, you might recognize him from Inglourious Bastards, plays the fighter ace Werner Voss. And they kind of butcher him a little bit. Werner Voss was a badass, especially the way he died, which in the movie they just totally neglect. And the movie also has that guy in it playing Roy Brown, supposedly the guy who shot down the Red Baron. But as far as historical evidence and stuff goes, it looks like an Australian anti-aircraft machine gun team were the ones that killed the Red Baron, just from where the bullet went in and stuff. But I mean the movie's okay, the acting's alright, the story's kind of eh. But the air battle scenes are really, really good in this movie. They did an excellent job in that department. Some of the worst parts, I guess, are like, I think it was like the spring offensive and stuff. Like the German infantry in the movie just look ridiculous. They look like they just left a World War I German reproduction store. I mean, all their equipment looks brand spanking new and stuff. It's pretty ridiculous. But, I mean, it's an okay movie. And it kind of bugged me, though, that they didn't show how the Red Baron actually died, and they didn't go into, all the mystery and speculation surrounding it. Basically, the Red Baron, while he was chasing another, I guess it was a British or Canadian plane, Roy Brown got behind him, fired a few times at him, and there was also an Australian anti-air machine gun shooting up at him. And I believe Richtofen was hit in the torso on his right side, and the bullet went all the way through his torso out and exited near his left nipple, I think. So, I mean, that bullet just had to do all kinds of damage on the way through and out. I mean, just, oof. Yeah, the thing just had to hit everything in him. But, surprisingly, he was able to safely land in no man's land. And I believe he was found by some Australian soldiers, and there's kind of a debate as to whether or not he was already dead when they found him. One guy said that the Red Baron said kaput was his final words, which means dead. So who really knows, I guess. But, the Red Baron's plane was torn apart by souvenir hunters, and that's kind of a shame. I mean, you can still see some of his stuff, oddly enough, in a aviation museum in Australia, like has the seat from his cockpit that he died in and stuff, so that's kind of interesting. Have to go and see that hopefully one day. And the Australians gave him a full military funeral, which is cool. I mean, he definitely earned it. I did read Richtofen's book, and it was pretty interesting. Kind of weird, but you definitely got to understand him a little bit more and stuff, so yeah, I'll probably do a video on his book one of these days. But, as far as the movie goes, it's just watch the movie for the air-to-air combat and then maybe go do your own research on the man. Alright, the next movie, Aces High. This came out in 1976. It's a pretty interesting movie. It's got a hell of a cast in it. It's got Malcolm McDowell. He's, I guess he's kind of a squadron commander of British fighter pilots. And you've got Christopher Plummer in it. And a couple other guys you might recognize from old British movies. It's a pretty interesting movie. Kind of realistic, I guess, in just what the life was like for British pilots during the war. I mean, pilots were dropping like flies in this time. I mean, just woof. Figures were like 50% mortality rates or something. I mean, it was rough being a fighter pilot. And of course, you gotta remember the planes are pieces of shit too, so, kind of crazy. But, I think the movie does a good job of showing that. Like, Malcolm McDowell gets a couple of fresh pilots in, and he asks them how much flight training they've had, and I think they say like 20 hours or something, and he's like, oh my god, and I'm supposed to put you guys out in the combat? Oof, So that's kind of crazy. But, it's a pretty good movie. I mean, I'll watch anything with Malcolm McDowell in it. Let's see, number 13, Beneath Hill 60. This was a surprisingly good movie. It's about these Australian soldiers who are having to dig a tunnel and a mine underneath some German fortifications. And the movie basically deals with all the crap they would have had to have dealt with and stuff. So it's pretty interesting. Something new. And it's definitely crazy what these soldiers had to deal with doing that. having to dig, then having to load the mine with all the explosives and stuff. And the explosion ended up being a very, very big one. I think at the end of the movie it says something like windows were vibrating in England, like, I don't know, 500 miles away or something. So yeah, this was a pretty big deal. The acting in this was really good, and the story was pretty good. Not a lot of fighting and stuff, but what's in the movie is good stuff, so check it out. Alright, up next, The Lost Battalion. This was a made-for-television movie. I think it was A&E, or the History Channel. I think it was A&E. It came out in 2001, starring Rick Schroeder, or Ricky Schroeder, whatever you want to do. It's got a couple of guys in it. I think the red-headed dude from those Scott grass seed commercials is in the movie. It's just kind of weird, but the battle scenes in this movie are pretty cool, and the real-life story of the Lost Battalion is very, very interesting. The movie definitely got me on Wikipedia afterwards to find out the real stuff, and the movie's actually pretty accurate. And Rick Schroeder plays the commander of the Lost Battalion, Charles Whittlesey or whatever. He was kind of a tragic figure because I think after the war he actually committed suicide. He just, couldn't bear it, living with it anymore, so that was kind of sad. But, the movie was really interesting. The battle scenes are pretty cool, and, you get to see a lot of variety of the types of weapons, tactics, and stuff that was used. And you get to see how important carrier pigeons were to the soldiers and stuff. Like, I think the famous carrier pigeon, what was its name? Cher Ami, I think, which means dearest friend or something in French. That pigeon's in this movie, so that's interesting. So, yeah, it's a pretty good movie. I think this might have been another movie I saw on YouTube. Yeah, I think so. I don't know, I might end up buying this one. It's not that violent, but I guess it kind of is for 2001 television, but, man. But yeah, it's a good movie. Okay, number 11, The Blue Max. This is a very interesting and kind of an odd movie. The movie stars George Peppard of Breakfast at Tiffany's and the A-Team fame. And it also has Ursula Andress, who was the first Bond girl. And it's also got the great James Mason in it. It's basically about a German pilot played by George Peppard who tries to get the Pour le Mérite, which is the highest medal you can get in Germany. And basically, I think you have to shoot down like 20 planes or so to get it. So he's like really aggressive and stuff, which bugs his colleagues who are more experienced and some are even better than him. So you get to see that kind of clash of personalities and stuff. And the ending of the movie is very interesting, very dark, and very crazy. So it's a good movie, just kind of long and stuff, but it's a good movie. It's a pretty unique war movie. Alright, up next, what would this be? Number 10, Joyous Noel. This is about the 1914 Christmas truce. Well, I think I bought it like 10 years ago, and then I didn't really like it the first time I watched it. I just thought it was kind of boring, but I watched it actually on the anniversary. I guess that would have been December 2014. Yeah, I actually watched it on the 100th anniversary of the Christmas truce. I was actually very emotional, and I enjoyed the movie a lot watching it on the anniversary of that, because it is kind of a crazy subject. And it's a true story. I mean, this really happened. I don't think any of the characters in the movie are real, but I mean, as far as like what happened and stuff, this movie is pretty damn accurate. And I mean, it's a pretty sentimental movie, and definitely a good war movie for Christmas, I guess, if there is such a thing. The cast is pretty good. The acting is really good. Diane Kruger's in it, and for some weird reason, she just has to show her boobs in every movie, which is showing them in this one's kind of weird. I mean, this is supposed to be kind of a Christmas movie, but you know those Europeans, they just love whipping them out. But yeah, this is a damn good movie. I'm glad the movie was made. I mean, this Christmas truce should definitely be remembered. Okay, up next, number 9, Passchendaele. This is a Canadian war movie about the Battle of Passchendaele, go figure, which involved I think a couple of Canadian units. The movie was written, directed, produced, and stars Paul Gross. He's kind of a famous Canadian actor. Yeah. I like him though. I've checked out a couple of his movies and stuff after watching this, and I like him. It's a pretty good movie. Basically deals with a Canadian soldier played by Paul Gross, who I guess the movie kind of starts off with a battle. He gets wounded, shipped back to Canada. He has, post-traumatic stress and stuff, which at the time they didn't really know what the hell that was. So he's having to deal with life back home, and there's a kind of a stupid love story in the movie, which kind of gets in the way a bit, but whatever. I mean, the chick he falls for is kind of hot, so I guess I can deal with it. But the parts of the movie that are best are definitely the battle scenes. Paul Gross did an excellent job in those parts of the movie. Definitely does a good job with that. So check it out. I think I watched it for free on YouTube, and then I bought it off of Amazon. And I guess because the movie bombed so badly in Canada, I think the movie had a $20 million budget, but it only made $4 million. You can actually get it for $3 brand spanking new on Amazon. So yeah, give it a try. I mean, if you want to watch it for free, check it out on YouTube, I guess. It probably has the most realistic World War I battle scenes ever, so definitely check it out for that. Okay, up next, Gallipoli. This came out in 1981, directed by the great director Peter Weir. It stars a young Mel Gibson and a guy named Mark Lee. I don't know what he went on to after this, but we all know Mel Gibson. This deals with a bunch of Australian soldiers doing, I guess this was 1915. So they kind of join up for the military, then they get shipped off to Egypt for training, and then they go off and fight at the Gallipoli campaign, which took place in the Dardanelles, and turned out to be a military disaster for the British and their Commonwealth brethren. But the movie's really good, kind of slow. I mean, it's an early 1980s Australian movie, so it's going to be a little weird, but I mean, by the end of the movie, you are really invested in the characters. You really care about them. The battle scenes are brutal, but, honest too, I guess. And the final couple of seconds of the movie are just holy shit. Yeah, I remember hearing stories about audiences seeing the movie when it came out and just being, stunned. Nobody would leave the theater for a couple of minutes after the credits finished rolling. They were just stunned by the end of the movie. So this was definitely a big movie for Australians. I guess you could say Gallipoli was kind of their, watershed moment or their Alamo. But it's definitely a good movie and definitely a campaign that should be remembered. So yeah, it's definitely an important movie. Okay, number 7. This is a classic movie. The African Queen. This came out in 1951, starring the great Humphrey Bogart and Katharine Hepburn. This takes place in Africa, I think right at the beginning of the war, so August, September 1914, sometime around there. And it deals with a British Methodist missionary played by Katharine Hepburn, who basically ends up trapped in Africa, and a American boat captain who has to get her out of Africa, basically, on his river boat, basically going through the dark heart of Africa, trying to get out of there. And they're also having to avoid Germans and stuff. So it's a very cool movie, very good movie. So that's definitely a classic, so check out The African Queen. Up next is another classic movie. I think this is a French movie called La Grande Illusion, which came out in 1937, so this is a pretty old one. It's a very interesting movie. It's about, I guess it was French prisoners of war, and basically them wanting to escape from their German captors. And that's a very good movie. I was kind of surprised when I just sat down and watched it. I think I watched it on Turner Classic Movies, and it was really good. I mean, the acting was really good. The story was pretty good. The script was actually really good, I thought. Like, the French officers would, like, hang out with the German officers and just, kind of chat about stuff. And they would also kind of show off their linguistic skills. Like, they would talk in French, and then they would switch over to German, and then just to kind of really show off, then they would start talking in English. So that's kind of cool. You're reading English subtitles the whole movie because they're speaking in French and then German, and then all of a sudden they're speaking perfect English. It's like, wow, these guys are pretty good at languages. So yeah, it's a really good movie. The ending is nice. I mean, it's a good movie. So definitely check that out. Next up, Paths of Glory. This came out in 1957 and was directed by the great Stanley Kubrick. Stars Kirk Douglas. I haven't seen this movie in like 15 years, so I'm kind of not really sure whether I should put it in my top 5 favorite World War I movies of all time, but I don't know. I mean, critics love this movie, and I liked it when I first saw it, but I don't know. That was a long time ago. But it's basically about the French Army's mutinies of 1917 and the consequences of that and stuff. So it's definitely a anti-war movie, but it's a pretty good movie. I think Stanley Kubrick actually met his wife making this movie. I remember her being pretty hot, so I don't know. I think she's at the end of the movie serenading the soldiers or whatever. But yeah, as far as I can remember, it's a damn good movie, but I don't know. I guess I need to watch it again, especially if I'm going to put it in my top 5, but, whatever. Okay, next up, Sergeant York. This came out in 1941, and it's about the real-life soldier Alvin York, who was one of our best soldiers in World War I. Yeah, I mean, what he did is nuts. And I'll let you watch the movie just to see how crazy it was. The movie was directed by Howard Hawks, who is a great American director. And in the role of Alvin York is the great actor Gary Cooper. And, the movie, the first, I guess, 3/4 of the movie kind of deals with Alvin York's life back in Tennessee and stuff. So it's kind of a slow, kind of a honky-dory, kind of old-fashioned start to a movie. But the actual battle scenes and stuff of the movie is really, really well done. I was kind of surprised by that. And very accurate, too. I mean, they actually talked to the real Alvin York, and he, blow for blow, told them what happened. So the historical authenticity of the movie is very, very good. So yeah, check it out. I mean, like I said, the first 3/4 is kind of old-fashioned-y, but the battle scenes and the aftermath is pretty cool and pretty damn accurate too. So definitely check out that classic movie. Okay, number 3, Johnny Got His Gun. This is a absolutely crazy movie. The only reason why I know about this movie and book is because of the Metallica music video for their song One. Uses a lot of footage from the movie, and I think the song is actually inspired by the movie and the book. So, yeah. So I think I watched this in 2014. I think it was probably July. I guess I checked it out for the 100th anniversary of the start of the war. And I watched it for free on YouTube, and I watched it in kind of a weird way. Like, I was kind of tired, so I just went to my room and lied down and propped my laptop on my chest while I was laying in bed. And I just watched the movie like that. And it was late as hell at night, too. I think it was like 1 a.m. when I started it. Basically, the movie deals with a American soldier named Joe who gets injured by an artillery shell. He gets his legs blown off, his arms blown off. Naturally, his eardrums are ruptured. I think he loses his mouth, like his lower jaw is blown off. His eyes are, ruined. And he's also got brain damage naturally from his injuries, skull fracture and stuff. And he's brought into a hospital, and they just, what the hell are we going to do with him? But Joe doesn't die, so they have to just, put him somewhere. But the doctors think that he's so badly damaged that, he's basically a vegetable. But unfortunately for Joe, he can still think, and he can still feel. So it's a very creepy idea that Dalton Trumbo came up with, who's the author of the book. So yeah, it's basically, the movie's just about Joe and his dreams and visions and stuff. Because he's blind, he can't talk, and he can't hear. Basically, he's just living inside of his own head, which is, like I said, badly damaged. So he can't really tell when he's awake or not, when he's dreaming or just, imagining things. So it's a very odd movie. Like, he's hanging out with Jesus and stuff in his head and stuff, and he's having to relive flashbacks from his past and stuff. So it's a very, very odd, but very, very powerful movie. I think like a week or two after watching it, I got Oompy and Creed and my nephew to watch it with me, and I mean, they were all just like, wow, this is a very powerful, very tragic movie. So definitely check it out. I mean, it's a rough movie, and be prepared for some weird, crazy, sad shit to happen. Oh, and also check out the music video for Metallica's One. They do a very good job with that. I mean, that's one of the most famous music videos of the 1980s. So, yeah, if you haven't seen that, definitely check it out. And I think in order to do the music video, Metallica actually bought the rights to the movie. So they actually, I think, own the movie, Johnny Got His Gun. So that's kind of cool. The movie has a pretty good cast. Jason Robards plays Joe's father. Donald Sutherland actually plays Jesus in the movie, so that's kind of cool. And it's definitely a very big anti-war movie. It's definitely made for that purpose. But I mean, the story and the characters are so intriguing that I think it's a lot more than just an anti-war movie. So definitely check out Johnny Got His Gun. Okay, up next, number 2, All Quiet on the Western Front. This is another happy little movie. I think I saw this in 2013, and I was actually pleasantly surprised. I mean, this is a absolutely great movie. The movie actually came out in 1930, so I mean, this is only 12 years after the end of the war, so I mean, this is kind of nuts how close to the war this was. I mean, it'd be like somebody doing a, I don't know, Invasion of Iraq movie now, so, the acting is kind of old-fashioned. I mean, you have to remember the actors are all, trained in the silent era, so you have to kind of, have big emotional kind of flares and stuff to kind of get your point across. But the movie's in sound, so they're kind of using outdated acting techniques. So once you understand that, it's okay. But yeah, the acting's kind of flamboyant, but still good. I mean, the acting, like in the somber moments, are very powerful moments. The cinematography in the movie is excellent. I mean, it's just an incredible movie. Like, the battle scene in the movie, like the big battle scene in the movie, is incredible. I was stunned at how great this scene was. And in fact, after watching the movie, I was reading about the movie, and I read that Steven Spielberg was actually inspired to shoot his D-Day battle scene in Saving Private Ryan. He was actually inspired by how that battle scene was done in All Quiet on the Western Front. Just how realistic and visceral and just brutal it was. So yeah, the battle scene in All Quiet on the Western Front is really, really nuts. Especially seeing how old the movie is. I mean, it's in black and white, grainy quality film and stuff. Even though I own the movie on Blu-ray, I mean, it's an 86-year-old movie. I mean, this is going to look pretty rough. And the way the movie looks, like I was saying, black and white, kind of grainy and stuff, it actually looks like you're watching a real-life, archival footage of World War I battle scenes. So, yeah, that battle scene is incredible. And the script is good, and the I mean, it's just everything works in the movie. And I think it was one of the first movies to win the Academy Award for Best Picture. So, yeah, this was a big deal when it came out. Oddly enough, I read the book, I think, in 2014, again, for the 100th anniversary of the start of the war. And the movie is very, very close to the book. I was kind of surprised because we're kind of used to movies based on books nowadays kind of veering off and kind of becoming its own thing. But no, I mean, the movie stayed very, very close to the book, which is definitely good. And the book's a bit rougher than the movie. I mean, you know, it's 1930. People aren't going to go and see a totally nuts movie. But yeah, I would definitely recommend that if you're a war movie buff, or if you like World War One, or if you just like great movies, you've got to check out All Quiet on the Western Front. I mean, it's a classic movie. And the actor playing the main character, Paul Baumer, the actor is Lew Ayres. He's an interesting guy in his own right. I think he was like a staunch pacifist, and even in World War II, he refused to go and fight, but he did sign up to be a doctor or a medic or whatever. So, you know, cheers for him standing by his pacifist beliefs, but also getting into the fight, you know, helping save soldiers' lives and stuff. So good for him. So yeah, it's just all around just a great movie. Okay, finally, we are at my number one favorite World War I movie of all time, and you can probably guess by now what movie it is. Lawrence of Arabia. This came out in 1962, based on the experiences of T.E. Lawrence, better known as Lawrence of Arabia. The movie was directed by the great David Lean, who also directed Bridge on the River Kwai and a couple other movies. The movie stars Peter O'Toole in the role of his life, basically, as T.E. Lawrence. And it also has great actors like Anthony Quinn, Jack Hawkins, Jose Ferrer, Claude Rains, and Omar Sharif. And anybody a fan of the original Star Wars movies will love seeing Alec Guinness in this movie. But yeah, I mean, just top to bottom, great soundtrack, great cinematography, great story, great acting. The battle scenes are exciting. I mean, this is great classic movie making. I mean, you could not do this movie nowadays. I mean, it just wouldn't be as good or as powerful or as great. I mean, it just wouldn't be, you know, Lawrence of Arabia. Now, naturally, this is a very long movie. I always skip the overtures and stuff. I hate fucking overtures. I'm okay with intermissions, but overtures drive me nuts. So skip that crap. And I'm fine watching long movies. I mean, hell, my top 3 favorite movies of all time are The Lord of the Rings, Braveheart, and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. I mean, I like long movies, so, you know, if you don't have a problem sitting there and watching a movie for like, I don't know, 3 or 4 hours, then you'll definitely enjoy this. As far as being historically accurate, I think this movie's kind of okay. I haven't actually read T.E. Lawrence's book, The 7 Pillars of Wisdom, yet. I started it, but I never got around to finishing it. But, I mean, the pages that I did read, I think I only read like the first 20. I mean, that's an excellent book. And the special features on the Blu-ray edition of Lawrence of Arabia, I mean, they have like commentary and stuff, and they talk to Peter O'Toole and stuff, and that's really interesting. Yeah, I mean, Peter O'Toole says that T.E. Lawrence was an absolutely great writer. Like, if he had lived a little longer, he would have probably have been one of the great British writers of the 20th century. So, yeah, T.E. Lawrence is an amazing man. So, definitely check out Lawrence of Arabia and, you know, most of these other movies on my list. So, take it easy, people, and get out there and learn more about World War I.